Hello, everyone, and welcome to the City of Jamestown's business reopening session that is focused on retail, rental, repair, and cleaning. My name is Seth Picarillo. I am a consultant working with the Department of Development, and thank you so much for joining us here today. First, we want to thank all of our great local partners, the Chautauqua County IDA, the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce, and the Jamestown Small Business Development Center. This pandemic has created obviously many challenges, but we are fortunate to be working with so many qualified and helpful partners. Jamestown Renaissance Corporation has new programs that are designed to help local businesses through the COVID-19 pandemic and reopening. That includes an urban e-commerce program, a urban dining program, and a program focused on using parklets as a way to incentivize and encourage outdoor business operations. You can reach out to the GRC with this contact information to learn more about those programs that are again due June 12th. Our contact information, City of Jamestown Department of Development, is here for you. We're going to talk about a great deal of regulations and specifics and a business safety plan. We are here to help you through not only questions, but completion of that business safety plan. We hope that you will reach out to us. The Department of Development has hosted a series of reopening webinars focused on specific industry. Today is retail, rental, repair, and cleaning, as I talked about. And we also have sessions coming up on June 9th and June 10th. There are statewide and national programs that are set up to help businesses with the COVID-19 reopening. Recently, New York State created the New York Forward Loan Fund, which is linked here to our presentation. The U.S. Small Business Administration has the largest menu of programs, and we suggest every business taking a look at that on a regular basis, especially with Congress and Senate just voting to add additional financial resources to those programs. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, while not financial programs, has a lot of really good best practices and documents for industries across the board, and we suggest that you visit that as well. The City of Jamestown is also dealing with the same safety protocols that businesses are being asked to follow. And you can visit the city's website and look at the Restart Jamestown plan to see how the municipality is operating with new safety protocols. So as of last week, we have entered into phase 2 for Western New York. So that creates the question of now what? What do we do next for each of our industries? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Our next steps as business owners, regardless of the industry, regardless of what phase you're in, are to complete your business safety plan, which we'll talk about today, to affirm your business's understanding of the new interim safety guidelines from New York State, to review that plan with your employees, and then make that plan accessible to your customers. Those are critical next steps that really need to be done immediately, especially if you're phase 2. These steps actually should have been completed already. So these are the things that you need to think about next. This pandemic has created a lot of confusion and gray area. Those questions and confusion are going to continue along the way, but we know what our next steps are: the business safety plan and the affirmation to New York State. As far as safety protocols go, we have to look at this as an open book test. We know what the state is looking for. We do know that it's going to make day-to-day business operations more difficult, especially with occupancy restrictions. But in order for us to safely reopen and to meet the state's compliance, business safety plan and affirmation of understanding the new protocols and guidelines are what we need to do. Forward.ny.gov is the clearinghouse for all of this information, all the guidelines, the affirmation, the business safety plan that we're going to talk about. That's where you need to be visiting on a regular basis. In addition to the safety guidelines, there's other useful tools on that website. For instance, the Regional Unpause Dashboard. We've got to keep in mind that businesses are reopened based on Western New York's regional benchmarks being met. Things like reduction of COVID-19 cases, availability of hospital beds, testing. We also have to remember that if those metrics change, so does the ability to operate. So while I don't think you need to visit this page every day, I would take a look at it weekly just to make sure you know what our region is doing. If you're not certain, or you know a friend or a colleague that has a business that isn't quite certain what industry or phase they fall into, the Forward website has the business reopening lookup tool that allows you to enter in your region and your business, and it can give you some sense of where exactly you are. The website also includes the business safety template and the affirmation link, which is the basis of what we're talking about today. It breaks down the guidelines into summary guidance, detailed guidelines that are specific to industry, and the business safety template, which is a writable PDF that, while you don't have to use it, it is set up specifically to show you what the state is looking for. So our recommendation would be to use that writable PDF as you're creating your safety plan. Of course, this is about meeting safety guidelines and interim guidance from New York State so we can lawfully reopen. But safety protocols are also about building employee trust and customer confidence. If we want our businesses to be able to, really start to generate revenue again and be successful, our employees need to feel like we are doing everything we can to keep them safe, and our customers have to feel that you are doing the same. The actual jurisdiction about how these protocols are reviewed are the local municipality. But keep this in mind. If there are employee or customer complaints about, hey, I was just in a business and I don't think that they are operating safely, I didn't see anyone with masks, those complaints are likely to trigger some type of review. So you need to make sure that your employees are comfortable with the safety protocols and your customers. Just a quick recap of the phases. So on May 19th, phase 1 started. That's construction, agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting, retail that was limited to curbside or in-store pickup or drop-off, manufacturing, and wholesale trade. Phase 2, that started on June 2nd, professional services, retail, administrative support, real estate rental and leasing, vehicle sales, leasing and rentals, outdoor operation for restaurants, and retail, rental, repair, and cleaning, which we're going to talk about today. Phase 3 is not reopened yet. We want to continue to check back with the Forward website to see when that is. But phase 3, which is indoor restaurants and food services, is not reopened yet. Phase 4 is arts, entertainment, recreation, and education. It is not reopened yet. So whether or not you have been in operation in a limited capacity or you were essential, or if you are a phase 2, 3, or 4 business that's getting ready for reopening, the guidelines and the safety plan and the affirmation apply to you. It's across the board, regardless of the situation. You need to create this business safety plan as we move forward. Every business is different. Every business and the physical layout might need specific safety protocols for social distancing. That makes sense. You should do what's best for your business, but you have to first meet the guidelines that are prescribed by the state. So I'm going to turn my video off here because I'm going to run through the actual guidelines. When you go to the Forward website and you click on phase 2, and then you click on retail, rental, repair, and cleaning guidelines, this is a document that you're going to see. It has by category what's mandatory and recommended best practices. Now, usually in a PowerPoint, it's not a great idea to just read text, but the text that we're about to go over is what you are affirming your understanding of and what you are creating your business safety plan based on. So we're going to go over it point by point, and this PowerPoint is going to be available to you as a resource on the Department of Development's website. So we're going to start with physical distancing. Here is what's mandatory. And you're going to hear me say 6 feet of distance many times. Remember 6 feet of distance in between employees and customers as the major goal in all of this. Ensure 6 feet of distance between individuals unless the safety of the core activity requires a shorter distance. Reduce interpersonal contact and congregation through methods such as limiting in-person presence to only 1 personnel necessary for the current tasks, and or adjusting retail hours to spread employee and customer traffic over a longer period of time. The workforce and customer presence must be limited to no more than 50% of the maximum occupancy for a particular area set by the certificate of occupancy, inclusive of customers who must maintain 6 feet of space from others and, in all cases, wear an acceptable face covering. Tightly confined spaces like elevators, small stock rooms, and behind the cash register should be occupied by only one individual at a time, unless all individuals are wearing face coverings. If occupied by more than one person, keep occupancy under 50% of maximum capacity. Post social distancing markers using tape or signs to denote 6 feet of spacing and commonly used in other applicable areas, like the clock in and out stations, health screening, cash register lines, and merchandise. Limit in-person gatherings like meetings as much as possible using tele or video conferencing whenever possible. If a meeting is necessary, it should be held in open, well-ventilated spaces with appropriate social distancing among participants. Establish designated areas for pickups and deliveries, limiting contact to the extent possible. Consider closing waiting rooms and post signage and floor distance markers denoting 6 feet outside of the shop where customers may wait. Ensure fitting rooms are equipped with appropriate cleaning and hygiene supplies for employee and customer use, including hand sanitizer. Here are recommended best practices on physical distancing. Modify the use or restrict the number of workspaces and employee seating areas to maintain 6 feet of distance. Modify retail and reduce bidirectional foot traffic layouts by posting signs with arrows in narrow aisles, hallways, or spaces. Provide clearly designated separate entrances and exits. Encourage customer visitors for service like computer repair, dry cleaning to be made by appointment only. Stagger customer arrivals by advising pickup windows and avoid direct handoffs. Facilitate curbside pickups by reserving parking spaces near the front door and avoid direct handoff when possible by implementing a touchless delivery system whereby customers stay in the car. Designate and arrange customer waiting areas like lines and parking areas to maximize social distancing. Encourage customers to use touchless payment options or pay ahead. Adjust retail hours as necessary to enable enhanced cleaning procedures. For in-home services, provide a window of service time and encourage customers to wear face coverings and socially distance. Provide remote shopping alternatives for customers like click and collect and delivery. Clean and disinfect fitting rooms after each use. Moving to protective equipment, here's what's mandatory. Ensure that each customer entering the retail store is wearing an acceptable face covering, provided that the customer is over the age of 2 and able to medically tolerate such a covering. Employers must provide employees with the acceptable face coverings at no cost to the employee and have an adequate supply of coverings in the case of replacement. Acceptable face coverings include, but are not limited to, cloth, homemade sewn, quick cut, or bandana, and surgical masks unless the nature of the work requires a stricter PPE like an N95 respirator or a face shield. Face coverings must be cleaned or replaced after use and may not be shared. Employers must train employees on how to put on, take off, clean, and discard PPE, including face coverings. Employees must wear face coverings when they are within 6 feet of a customer or coworker and anytime they interact with customers, like bringing up a purchase, in-home appliance repair, etc. Limit the sharing of objects like registers and discourage touching of shared services, or when in contact with the shared objects or frequently touched areas, wear gloves, trade appropriate or medical, or sanitizer or wash hands before and after contact. For businesses where travel and interaction with customers is frequent, like home appliance repairs and home cleaning services, employees must wear face coverings within 6 feet of a customer. If vehicle travel is required and more than one employee is in the vehicle, all employees must wear face coverings. Here are best practices for protective equipment. For cleaning services like residential cleaning, employees should wear disposable gloves. Encourage customers to wear face coverings and adhere to social distancing guidelines during the home service. Encourage employees and customers to wear face coverings at all times when in an enclosed space. Minimize the need for employees to travel in shared vehicles. On cleaning and hygiene, here's what's mandatory for your industry. Adhere to hygiene and sanitation requirements from the CDC and DOH, and maintain cleaning logs on site that document date, time, and scope of cleaning. Provide and maintain hand hygiene stations for personnel, including hand washing with soap, water, and paper towels, as well as an alcohol-based hand sanitizer containing 60% or more of alcohol for areas where hand washing is not feasible. Require employees to practice hand hygiene by washing hands for 20 seconds with soap and water after handling laundry or cleaning and disinfecting rented or repaired equipment or homes from individual customers. Provide and encourage employees to use cleaning and disinfecting supplies before and after use of shared and frequently touched surfaces, followed by hand hygiene. Place hand sanitizer throughout the store in convenient locations for use by employees and customers. Ensure equipment and goods are disinfected before customers pick up goods and after customers drop off goods. Sanitize hands before and after transferring goods or customer visits. Conduct regular cleaning and disinfection at least after every shift, daily, or more frequently as needed, and more frequent cleaning and disinfection of shared objects like registers, surfaces, as well as high transit areas such as payment devices, pickup areas, restrooms, vehicles, and common areas. Cleaning and disinfecting of the retail location, shared services, and other areas, as well as the equipment, should be performed using DEC products identified by the EPA as effective against COVID-19. If cleaning or disinfection products or the act of cleaning and disinfecting causes safety hazards or degrades the material or machinery, personnel should have access to hand hygiene stations between use and or supplied with disposable gloves. Prohibit shared foods and beverages like buffet-style meals and pizza. If providing equipment or goods for rent or providing repair services like sports equipment rentals, clean and disinfect equipment or goods before pickup by a customer and after a customer drops off or returns the equipment or goods. If providing cleaning services like in-home cleaning, sanitize all equipment, vacuums, and buckets between each use and location. Here are some recommended best practices on cleaning and hygiene for your industry. Whenever possible, increase ventilation of outdoor air, like windows and doors, while maintaining safety precautions. Encourage employees to bring lunch from home and reserve adequate space for employees to observe social distancing while eating meals. For businesses providing laundry services like laundromats or dry cleaning, follow CDC guidance. Items should be laundered at the warmest appropriate water setting and dried completely. Do not combine customers' laundry. Dirty laundry should not be shaken. Clean and disinfect equipment like hampers and bags after each use. Communication. Here's what's mandatory. Affirm that you have reviewed and understand the state-issued guidelines and that you will implement them. And that's what today's session is all about. Post signage inside and outside the retail location to remind personnel and customers to adhere to proper hygiene, social distancing rules, appropriate use of PPE, and cleaning and disinfecting protocols. Train all personnel on new protocols and frequently communicate safety guidelines. Establish a communication plan for employees, visitors, and clients with a consistent means to provide updated information. Maintain a continuous log of every employee, including workers and visitors who may have close contact with other individuals at the work site or area, excluding customers and excluding deliveries that are performed with appropriate PPE or through contactless means. If a worker, visitor, or customer was in close contact with others at the retail location and test positive for COVID-19, the employer must immediately notify state and local health departments and cooperate with contact tracing, including notification of potential contacts such as workers, visitors, and customers, if known, who had close contact with the individual while maintaining confidentiality required by state and federal law and regulations. Conspicuously post completed safety plan on site. Best practices for communication: use social media, verbal communications, and signs to provide customers with instructions and encourage them to use face coverings when 6 feet of distance cannot be maintained in accordance with the CDC and DOH guidelines. Screening. Here's what's mandatory. Employees who are sick should stay home or return home if they become ill at work. Implement mandatory health screening assessments like questionnaires, temperature checks for employees and contractors, and other visitors asking about the following. Number 1, COVID-19 symptoms in the past 14 days. 2, positive COVID-19 test in the past 14 days, or 3, close contact with a confirmed or suspected COVID-19 case in the past 14 days. Responses must be reviewed and documented daily. Employees who screen positive for COVID-19 symptoms should be sent home to contact their healthcare provider for medical assessment, COVID-19 testing. If employees test positive or does not receive a test, the employee may only return after completing a 14-day quarantine. Employees who present with no symptoms but have tested positive in the past 14 days may only return to work after completing a 14-day quarantine. Employees who have had close contact with a person with COVID-19 but are not experiencing any symptoms should inform their employer and may be only able to return to work with additional precautions, including regular monitoring for symptoms and temperature, required face coverings at all times, and appropriate use of social distancing from others. A person who screens positive for COVID-19 symptoms should not be allowed to enter the location and should be sent home with instructions to contact their healthcare provider for assessment and testing. Screeners should be trained by individuals familiar with CDC, DOH, and OSHA protocols and wear appropriate PPE, including, at a minimum, a face covering. Employers must have a plan for cleaning, disinfection, and contact tracing in the event of a positive case. Here are best practices for screening. Customers cannot be mandated to complete a health screening or provide contact information, but may be encouraged to do so. Encourage customers to provide contact information so they can be logged and contacted for contact tracing if necessary. Perform screening remotely by telephone or electronic survey before people arrive to the extent possible. That would be much easier to do with your employees than customers. Coordinate screening to prevent people from intermingling in close contact with each other prior to completion of the screening. All right, so I know that was a lot of text, but the reason it's important is all of that information is what makes up the interim guidance for your industry. And when you go to the Forward website, what you're being asked to do is affirm that you understand all this guidance. So after the whole page, you take a look at it, you read it, there is an affirmation link. You have to click on that link and you have to affirm that you understand these guidelines and you're going to create a plan to address them. It asks you for some basic information, nothing like tax information or anything financial, just your contact information, the type of industry. It's a quick field. And then you hit submit. That information is then submitted to New York State. Your next step on the same website is creation of the NY Forward Safety Plan template. This is all an open book test. So what this template is taking the protocols and guidelines that we just went over and then creating a safety plan. The reason why this plan template from the state is helpful is it divides up what they're looking for into sections. Some of them, which are clear, like that 6 feet of distance we keep talking about, you just have to check a box. In other areas, you have to talk about any challenges or what your specific plan is to enact these guidelines. When you're done with that, that does not get submitted to New York State. That's the plan that you need to have on your premises. That's the plan that your customers and your employees need to have access to. So the safety plan stays on site. The affirmation is sent to New York State. So what are our next steps after we get that affirmation done? That's our number one. If we haven't done that yet, we really need to do that as quickly as possible. After you get that done, you're completing your business safety plan. You are filing a readily accessible copy of that plan at your place of business. You are posting a public copy of that plan. If you don't want to put a document on the wall, my suggestion would be, a public sign that says we have a completed business safety plan on premises in accordance with New York State guidelines. Then you need to schedule meetings to discuss that plan with your employees. I really think that's the most important part because the provisions that you're talking about, they're going to change the day-to-day operation and life of your employees. They need to know what's differently expected of them, especially things like cleaning high-touch areas. Very important that your employees have buy-in on the plan. These are just recommendations. I would say assign a COVID-19 response person. Ideally, that would be the same person that has a role in drafting your safety plan. but it would make sense, especially as we move forward, that you have a point person for COVID-19. Keep communicating with those employees as quickly, as much as you can. If you don't want to continue to do shift-based meetings, send text messages, emails, make sure that they have access to the information that involve the safety protocols that you're enacting. And then as you move forward, develop protocols that are specific to your business, but just make sure that you meet all the state guidelines that we talked about today. Again, we want to thank our local partners, the Chautauqua County IDA, the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce, and the Jamestown Small Business Development Center. The Department of Development continues to be here to help you through this process, and we hope that you will reach out to us if we can give you assistance. Thank you very much for your time.